Hello, world. My name is Paul Adams. I am the co-host of the Sound Financial Group podcast. And Corey is where? He's back. That's where he is. He is in studio today and getting a chance to spend time with us. He has not seen all of the terrible things I've said about Dave Ramsey. So his formal, I think I'm getting the words right. His formal apology.
You tell me what else you're going to say, and then I'll tell you if it's formal or former.
Yeah, his former apology. I will tell you for sure, Corey may have to apologize as the second Dave Ramsey one releases. And my partner, he doesn't know. He's got anger issues. I don't know what you're going to say about it, but I know Corey can smooth about anything over. So,
well, for now, I kind of feel like Michael Scott after he wasn't manager and becomes manager again and gets to move back into his office and just plays the bossa nova on the keyboard. Like, Miranda, if we can get that little Casio keyboard bossa nova in the background, feels good to be back.
Feels like that would just bring it together for us.
Right.
So it's going to be next week, guys. We're going to get into the different types of life insurance since we figured out in the last 2 weeks that Dave Ramsey doesn't know enough about life insurance to certainly be as confident as he is to talk about it. So since we've been heavy in some factual stuff the last couple episodes, I thought we would take some fun videos and articles to just kind of talk about financial principles and how it impacts us. Now, this next video clip, we're going to watch together, and then Corey and I are going to talk about it. It might make sense. Corey, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but we'll watch it again after we talk about it so people have the different context. All right. So this is Jimmy Carr, highly offensive comedian, but he does it in a great British accent. Now, in this clip, he's not being offensive, but for those of you that appreciate offensive comedy, he does do it in the most refined British way you could imagine. And this is a clip of when he was on Joe Rogan that I think really speaks to the amount of change that's coming at all of us as investors. And we're going to talk about how this kind of rapid change can be managed inside of an investment portfolio. Here we go.
You know what the biggest industry in the world was in 1903?
Beavers.
Very close. Whaling was the biggest industry in the world in 1903. And whaling disappeared overnight. Like in a year and a half, it was gone. Those towns were just emptied because the whale oil wasn't required anymore. Because suddenly we discovered petrochemicals, electricity, Edison, all of that stuff for Tesla. It's really interesting how that industry just fell away. It's like the story of, why the brownstones have got steps up to the front door?
Why?
Horseshit.
Really?
There was horseshit everywhere. They've always got those metal scrapers by the side. The smell was horrific. If a horse died in the street, you had to wait for it to atrophy to cut it up and take it away. Horses everywhere. So they made a law to say, right, horses, we're going to put tax on. Didn't change anything. Made another law the next year. We're doubling the tax. We're going to say, if you have a horse, then you have to do this, you have to do that, whatever it was. It kept on. And what stopped it? Henry Ford. Cars came along, all gone. Oh, there's 5 of them left in Central Park.
Right.
All gone in no time.
So he's talking about the fact that we had entire industries. Like we sometimes look at today in the investing world, et cetera, right, Corey? And it's like, oh, it's so different now. But with the rapid change, or maybe somebody could unseat Google or whatever. And literally, it wasn't even any one person trying to put the whaling business out of business. It was this confluence of free markets finding a more efficient solution. It didn't require the fuel for the whaling ships. It didn't require the harvesting of whales. It didn't require hunting their populations to the brink of extinction. It meant that we could have lights in our homes instead of whale oil lamps, right? We were able to create kerosene, which put the whale oil business out of business overnight because it was not explosive. It would burn dependably, clean. You could burn. I remember having a kerosene heater as a kid that could just run inside the house because it didn't throw off the kind of fumes that other heaters would.
Yeah.
And
if you were watching for the whale, like if you were trying to understand the whaling business and watch out for threats to the whaling. Like this at first wasn't going to show up as anything even to do with whaling.
It was drilling on land. Yeah. On land, we're drilling. and there's somebody in the whaling business going, send another boat out. We get 5 whales, so much blubber, and like easy money. And then the whole world changed. Now, you couldn't do it by watching whaling stocks, if we put it in today's vernacular, to your point. You couldn't be like, well, I think next year the migration pattern's going to change, and therefore, or whaling is going to reach its end because we're over hunting, so I'm shorting all the whaling stocks. See, these are all the market timing and speculation things that we naturally think about in an attempt to get ahead and build financial security. And yet the entire industry was gone. Same thing with the horses. And I love that thing about the brownstones. I didn't realize I
didn't realize that either.
But you look at those pictures of the old streets, huge piles of horse poop. And yet that problem was wiped away with the advent of the car. And this is something we talk to our investors about all the time. And as you're listening at home, you'll notice that we talk about all these entrepreneurs that we're invested in. We're not investing in every entrepreneur. We're investing in the ones that were good enough at what they did to create a publicly traded company. And they're out there solving problems every day. Now, the petrochemical industry solved an enormous set of problems, and created whole new ones.
Great. Now, what I love is, like, you could have been someone saying, oh, whaling is on its way. I am going to buy stock in these 2 or 3 whaling companies because I just see more demand for candles and whale lamps going up. But if you bought as close to what we would call an academically allocated, globally diversified portfolio, like you bought a wide range of companies, then your whaling stock would have gone down. But the stock of this company that eventually was going to be called GE would start going up like crazy.
Or like Exxon, Shell.
Yeah.
Who's the one that had the dinosaur? Sinclair.
Oh yeah, Sinclair, the dinosaur. Totally.
They were selling dinosaur juice. That's the I think that is the most brilliant part about their logo. It's not really dinosaur juice. I know that, but I do love calling fuel
close
dinosaur
enough.
juice.
I love it. Yeah.
But to Corey's point, you would have automatically adjusted your portfolio, because if you have a portfolio that owns basically the entire market, then you would own the up and coming petrochemical companies or the up and coming auto manufacturer, because it's just going to be worked into the portfolio. You won't have to be able to predict it. And you couldn't have. Like, there's nobody out there. Maybe the first guy who decided to make his logo a dinosaur, like maybe that guy, he was like, we're going to take over the whale oil industry. But odds are he just found oil and they burned it really inefficiently. And somebody's like, well, we can do this and we can make kerosene out of it and gasoline and diesel. And then it all just evolved. So we can't predict what's coming in the future. What we can do is hold a portfolio that also doesn't predict, but takes advantage of the growth of the entire market. Because the flip side is, these individuals that created this huge amount of innovation also created a lot of problems. We're seeing it today. Tesla has changed the electric car market. It went from you were somebody driving a Prius, this ridiculous looking car. I remember talking about it back in like 2008. And then Fisker came out, and Fisker had this hot little car that was so cool and super fast. They went bankrupt, I think more than once now. And then out of all the people trying to make electric cars, Tesla went well above and beyond. And now we've got a huge problem in South Africa in these cobalt mines. Just an absolute face of human tragedy. And some other entrepreneur is going to solve that one. And we, being free market investors, get a chance to participate in that solution in our portfolio. So, are you ready for our next one, Corey? I think We got that one pretty good. Now, this one is just fun. Kind of plays on one of our prior podcasts about all the scams that people get into and how it happens. This is a really funny video, and then we're going to talk about the post next to it.
Oh, yeah? Well, I only got 10, so here's 10 and I owe you 10.
Thanks.
Hey, Mo, you owe me 20.
Well, here's 10 and I'll owe you 10.
You owe me 20.
Here's 10, I owe you 10.
Here's the 10 I owe you.
Here's the 10 I owe you.
Here's the 10 I owe you. Good, now we're all even.
Speaking of money, how about the $20 you owe me?
Oh, yeah.
I do love that banking system explained. All they did was pass around $10 and pay it all off. I didn't put this in an Excel spreadsheet. It might work. But what could also have worked is we all owe each other $20. How about we just all drop our debts? And they didn't have to pass around money to pull that off.
But the timeless genius of the Three Stooges. That's amazing. But that is what it feels like sometimes in the American banking system. So we were going to try to get rid of the comments on the side until I noticed the very last line. The last paragraph. DM us to talk about how you can improve your wealth. Again, not saying they're a scam. I have no idea what this company is or does or who's behind that handle. But if the first step of solving your financial issues is a DM on social media, that might not be
to an unknown company called Cryptonary. Yeah. I would say that I've heard some young, sharp-looking financial advisors, and if I see them at the bar and they're talking about a bunch of people in their DMs, they're usually not talking about investors. So you want to keep that in mind. That it's it's okay. Like if what you were going to do is inquire about a new holster that you saw on Instagram, or maybe one of those houses that comes in a kit and you're going to build it in your backyard, or a 3D printer, that if it's like, hey, if you have questions about the product, DM us.
Right.
But what you shouldn't do is like, hey, if you're having a problem medically, DM us. No. If you have a problem financially, DM us. No. If you have a serious legal challenge, DM us. Maybe if it's a specialty law firm you've been following for a while, but all the same, DMing is not a good solution, because what does DMing lead to? A DM leads to a WhatsApp, leads to a Telegram, leads to you sending somebody cryptocurrency, promising a 9% monthly rate of return, and then
they send you 9% back the first month so that you put even more in, and then it all spirals out of control.
And my favorite part of those scams is that then they have you record a video saying how great it's been investing. They post it to the private group you're a part of, and as soon as it posts, they kick you out. They tell everybody else that they paid you out because that's what they told you to say in your video, and then they kick you out and you can't counter what they said. So definitely watch out for scams. And there's another one. This one is maybe one of my favorites. Number one, because it starts with Florida Man. And if you guys don't know about the Florida Man meme, it's like every crazy thing that happens in the news. Like Florida Man beats alligator with a frying pan. Florida Man, drunk drives tractor down to City Hall dumping accidentally a manure spreader's load of hooey on the front steps. Always starts with Florida Man. So Florida Man, whose family business once owned Playgirl magazine, pleads guilty to $250 million fraud at lending company. Tell me if you saw that headline. That's not an article you're going to read. Now, once again, what this was somebody offering an investment that was going to perform in some way better than what you could get if you were just academically allocated, globally diversified, and it is tempting. It is the siren song of every investor, the potential that I could be doing better somehow than what I'm doing. And so the way this worked is they told people that this One Global Investors, that what they were investing in was the factoring of invoices for small companies. So if you guys aren't familiar with what factoring is, that is when, say, I am a company that sells
Auto
parts, yeah, but my bills are 60 days. They've got 60 days to pay them, and that, let's say it's the industry standard. I can go to a factoring company, and by taking a slice off the top, maybe a 5 or 10% discount, they will send me the money now, and they will go collect the invoice.
So it's a way to solve cash flow problems for a small to medium-sized business.
And that's called factoring. I mean, a very legit thing. It can cost you a lot more than what you're prepared for, but sometimes it's super important to a struggling business. Well, he told people that's what he was doing with their money, but that was not what they were doing with their money. They were, right here. Money on credit card payments, vacation travels, drivers, nannies, housekeepers, tuition, mortgage payments, luxury car payments, and insurance payments for his art collection and jewelry.
So just spending it. He was just spending it. It was his own private checking account.
Yep. And I don't know how much of all the investor money he spent. But one of them has to pay like $57 million in restitution. So they probably found that they spent a lot of it. But here's the crazy thing. Look at the age of the people starting this thing. If they give them life in prison, they're going to be in for 6 months. Andrew Dale Ledbetter. It's just a great last name.
Let me try it. Let me see. Life in prison or a 2-year sentence? Well, let's do a 2-year sentence because that's longer.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Just leave me in the cell till 2 years is up. So 2021 conspiracy to commit fraud and securities fraud. 5 years in prison for an 81-year-old. What does the prison gang do to a guy like that? Do you think they make him like smuggle in Viagra or what else would be like a anti-inflammatory medicine for arthritis? Like he's just piping it in and getting it in the system. So then Stephen Allen Schwartz, 78 of Delray Beach, also in this was a director. 36 million in restitution. The other guy's 148 million in restitution. Like, I got it. Wow. How's he, Corey, seriously, the judge is a fool. How in the heck is he going to make enough money to pay that back while he's in prison? I think that's unfair to the investor. And then Jen Douglas Alice, who's a lawyer, she was the first one to plead out on this thing. She was in 2019. Was sentenced to 8 months in prison in order to pay more than a $29 million restitution. Here's the thing. If you are a person who is considering an investment that's supposed to outpace the market, make sure that their lifespan is going to be longer than the 5-year prison sentence if it doesn't work out. Because there is a less of an incentive if somebody is super, super old pulling this off. But the main point, although there is some hilarious stuff in here, is that this person clearly looked like they came from money. Like if you met them somewhere into this fraud, these people looked really well heeled, I'm sure. Nannies, drivers,
and you knew the name, which a lot of people, I saw how this played out every single time. Someone, probably a guy, in his 50s or 60s, goes to invest and pretends not to know that it's the Playgirl family fortune. Because, like, why would they not, right? They're like, oh, you're involved with what? Oh, I didn't even, right? Like, wait, I didn't know who that is. I didn't read that name on the back of the magazine every time for the last 20 years, whatever. So, but there's no point where someone is enough of a celebrity or rich enough that you can stop doing your due diligence to see if it's a scam or not.
That's right. And
there's no point.
Understand what's causing the returns, right? You're looking for, hey, what kind of rigor do we have? Is there auditing? Is there, are there other investors who have gotten their money out? Can I see the last balance sheet? How much are you guys taking compensation? Like if you were somebody that wanted to invest in something like this, and maybe they were offering 30% returns, if they're offering anything better than 8% return and you're not having to do anything, you should look really close, guys. Because if you're not doing anything, they can't support that. They may be just speculating with your money and they're hoping they produce that kind of return. And
or if they were generating
the
a huge amount of rate of return and they're paying you that much, they don't have to because they're already that much above the market. So they're not understanding supply and demand. They might be missing something else somewhere else that's going to ruin the deal.
That's right.
Even if they were good at one thing that they said they do, they just don't understand the economics.
Really well said. So today's episode, we have traveled from Jimmy Carr to the Three Stooges to Playgirl magazine. And that we hope that this has been a contribution to you being able to design a good life, design and build a good life. But I forgot to tell you guys something really important for you on the episode. You need to like this episode, mainly because Corey's back. I don't know why you wouldn't like an episode of Corey. You need to subscribe to the channel.
Let's get this one being the highest episode we ever have, just so I can feel a little.
Yeah, let's get 5,000 views on the video that talks about the founder of Playgirl magazine, horse shit, and the Three Stooges.
And whale oil.
And whale oil. We slipped some whale oil in the side door. Anyway, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We really look forward to seeing you next week, and we really do hope that this helps you design and build a good life.